You're listening to the ESO Network, your station for all things geek.
The following podcast is scheduled for one fall. Coming in at 195 pounds from Studio A, he is the reigning, defending, undisputed host of the Ring of Thunder, Sexy Thor!
Man, I just had the craziest dream last night. I dreamt that WrestleMania already took place, and I know it was WrestleMania, like this year's WrestleMania, or like last year's WrestleMania in a better timeline, because it took place at Raymond James Stadium, and the Weeknd's music was playing throughout, and it was crazy because there was even a live performance from The Weeknd in what was absolutely some sort of fever dream, and that must have been come up for my subconscious because of Bad Bunny's performance during the Rumble. And also the older veteran ended up going over the young up-and-coming talent, which is definitely a WWE trademark. So it was obviously WrestleMania. Had to be. But it was the weirdest thing because there was no wrestling going on, but they were playing football. I was just like, I thought Vince had just come up with another crazy thing where so there's like a 11-on-11 tag team match, but instead of wrestling, they played football. I don't know, man. WWE's come up with some weird shit, especially over the past year, so of course they would all seep into my subconscious, and then I wake and it all gets morphed into football. And then apparently it wasn't a dream, it actually happened, and it wasn't even WrestleMania, it was the Super Bowl, which is like football's WrestleMania. See, I just do this whole thing of twisting football as if I didn't have that much experience with watching football, at least compared to wrestling. The opposite is absolutely very true, but, you know, I guess this is part of the Sexy Thor gimmick, is where I just see everything through the lenses of wrestling and comic books and shit. That's what makes the gimmick so wonderful for me to play. Especially going on over 2.5 years, 3 years this summer. Goodness. But anyway, so that was my dream. Even though I just said it wasn't a dream, but that was my dream. So, you know, if you just want to pull off into that McDonald's parking lot real quick and we'll switch seats, and then I'll, you know, drive for a while when we get back on the road to WrestleMania. Oh, man. I took way too long leading into that. But yeah, Royal Rumble Fallout Week. On the road to WrestleMania officially for the next, let me think, it's February 8th. So yeah, we got about a little over 2 months to go to WrestleMania. I mean, basically 2 months. So let's get to it. Like, the first order of business to get to is Edge taking a tour of all the brands this week. Because first he went to Monday Night Raw, and the show started off with Drew McIntyre coming to the ring, and then he was putting over everybody and everything that was participating in the Rumble the night before. And then Edge came out and Drew was being all nice to him, to which he was just like, dude, I've mentored you for years, so what's wrong with you? Because I am the Royal Rumble winner. I could choose you as the champion I want to face in the main event of WrestleMania, so you should have been kicking my head off as soon as I stepped in this ring. Edge kind of has the point, though, but also Drew McIntyre rightfully doesn't fear anybody, I don't think. And then Sheamus came out here and he took exception to Edge's remarks towards Drew, because Drew's been carrying the company through this very unique time, and Edge has just been sitting at home with a then career-ending neck injury, which Sheamus took as a sign of laziness, but, just we'll roll with it. And then once Edge left the ring and he was just like, I'm going to take some time, I'm going to visit around on all the brands, and then I'll make my decision. But whoever I challenge, he swore he would walk out of WrestleMania champion. And then once Edge left, Drew was just looking out over at him like, ooh, I can't wait. And then the man, Drew, ended up getting brogue kicked by his former best friend of 20 years, or is it 15 years? Not exactly sure, because I've heard like both days recently. And so yeah, Sheamus turned heel, and we're hitting that program real quick before we get into WrestleMania. And then over on NXT, Edge visited again, and he was very interested in this one because, of course, not only does his wife Beth Phoenix do commentary for NXT, but also, and he said this when he came out when Finn Balor and his opponent for the upcoming TakeOver, NXT TakeOver Vengeance Day, which is this Sunday on Valentine's Day. See, Vengeance Day, Valentine's Day. Yeah. And so they had a face-to-face, and then Edge came out, and he was just like, see, that's what I like this. See, I'm here as a fan because, NXT has passion, and they put more into the second W in WWE than the E, unlike the main roster, which puts more emphasis on the E. And he was just like, this is good because I see passion here, and it was that passion that inspired me to get my career back after 9 years. And also, I've never held the NXT championship before, so maybe this will be it. So he pretty much made his case, and I was just like, ooh, if he goes after the NXT championship, that'll be very interesting. So I guess he's not really specifically looking for like reclaiming whatever could be the closest considered to be the World Heavyweight Championship, which was the title that he had and then had to give up back in 2011 to retire. He's just like, I'll be WWE champion again. I could be Universal Champion, which was the championship that reclaimed or replaced the World Heavyweight Championship. Or I could be NXT Champion, because I've never had that before. And, he'd be on Wednesday nights with his wife, so it would be all good. And then he visited SmackDown, and it started off sort of the same as Raw, but different, because Roman Reigns came out to start the show, as he usually does. And he was very, very, very much annoyed that Edge went to Raw and NXT before coming to the Blue brand, because he was just like, well, I'm Roman Reigns. I'm like, by default, the main event of anywhere, especially WrestleMania. And he's not wrong. He did main event WrestleMania from 31 to 34. And so he was just like, why would you play games with me? Like, he actually legitimately blew up, and Paul Heyman was terrified. And I was kind of terrified, but also in awe, because, yes, he is the head of the table, the tribal chief, all that stuff. And then he was just like, I demand that Edge gives me his answer by the end of the night. So, of course, that would be the main event segment. So Roman came back out, and then Edge came back out, and they had that face-to-face that, I definitely had been waiting for since the Rumble 2020. So, yeah, 13 months, whatever, no big deal. And then Edge was about to say his piece, and Roman just cut him off and was just like, you need to acknowledge me as the main event and say my name. And Roman was waiting for Edge to do such a thing, which I don't think he was going to do anyway. But then out of nowhere, Kevin Owens hit him with a stunner, and Edge was just like, well, I thank my fellow Canadian for getting me out of that, and I'll be on my way. He didn't actually say that, but his facial expression pretty much said it all, really. So that was Edge's whole big tour. While so far Bianca Belair hasn't visited Raw or NXT yet to go face Asuka or Io Shirai. But of course she did come back out to talk about things, and it seems like she's very much probably almost absolutely going to choose Sasha. I mean, hello, that's been one of her dream matches. And then Reginald, Carmella's a sommelier, I think that's the word for it, her assistant that picks out wines, apparently. Sommelier, I guess, sure. He came out, and he was just like, you know what, if you faced Asuka, I could see you winning, but Sasha Banks, nah, I don't think you have a chance with that. And I was like, what? Because I was just like, why is he putting over Sasha Banks? And it's just like, does he sort of kind of work for Sasha now as well? Or is he just saying on behalf of Carmella that if Carmella couldn't beat Sasha, then Bianca absolutely couldn't? I was just like, I don't know what the agenda here is. But then Carmella came out and basically reiterated the same thing, and Sasha Banks came out and she was just like, Bianca, you're awesome, but there's no way you're beating me. Ha 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 ha. See, I guess this is why Sasha kind of toes the line between babyface and heel these last few months, ever since she beat Bayley, so she could face total obvious heels like Carmella, but if she needs to, while facing a major babyface like Bianca Belair, then she could just slip right into that heel role like no big deal. But see, Sasha wins clean, so I guess she can be, like Bianca can be just a babyface, and Sasha can be a face that's also a dick, but still plays by the rules in the ring and can still win clean. I don't know. I mean, I don't know what would be better or more confusing, her sort of towing that line or being like Charlotte / The Big Show, where she's like face and heel and face and heel and face and heel and face and heel and face and heel. I don't know. Again, I just say go with it. Just go with it. Because, oh hey, speaking of Charlotte, what was she doing with Lacey Evans and all that? Do we even want to get into that? Even though I think it was last week's Raw Talk that Lacey Evans and Ric Flair came on there. Or was it 2 weeks ago? Man. But he had pretty much come up there and he was just like, no. He just completely undirtified it and made the entire internet wrestling community just look like a bunch of perverts when he was just like, look, I'm tired of people telling me that, Charlotte's better than me. I know she is, but I'm also a 2-time Hall of Famer, and I'm just getting my self-respect back, and I'm trying to teach this young lady, Lacey, how to be a world champion, because that's what matters in this business, is championships and Hall of Fame rings. So pretty much he completely undirtified that feud. I mean, it doesn't mean I love that feud anymore, but I'm just like, I think I can see it from Rick's perspective. I think I can see it. But still, again, that does not mean I'm any more interested in watching this feud. But, I just deal with it. I just deal with it. Oh, that's what happened. Lacey and Rick distracted Charlotte and Asuka when they were in a triple threat to determine the number one contender for the women's tag team championships in a triple threat elimination match. And it was Charlotte and Asuka, and it was Mandy Rose and Dana Brooke. And it was the whole brand new out of nowhere team that I think can actually work pretty well, Naomi and Lana. I mean, good Lord, let's just, if we're looking for a way to, put Naomi more on TV and maybe even get her back to winning a championship or 2 or 3, then the tag team title or the tag team scene might be the one to do it. I don't know. They're splitting up and rebooting the women's tag division all the time anyway, so who knows? But yeah, Charlotte and Asuka were being dominant as usual. But then Lacey Evans and Ric Flair came out to be like, ha 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 ha. So Charlotte just tagged Asuka in, and Charlotte just pieced out. And then Naomi just hit the rear view on Asuka and got the 1, 2, 3. And so Naomi and Lana are the number one contenders, which is pretty awesome. And then over on SmackDown with the women's tag scene was Ruby Riott versus Bayley. And Ruby was actually sort of getting the win until Billie Kay, who's still trying to, be the Riott Squad's new bestie, ended up distracting the ref and costing Ruby the match. But Bayley still won fairly clean other than that. And then once Bayley left the ring and the Riotts were about to straight up murder Billie Kay, Billie was just like, she ran over to Bayley and was offering her resume and all that. So see, it's funny because when the Riotts rejected Billie Kay like a few weeks ago, and Billie was just looking all sad and stuff, it was actually looking like the Riotts were the heels here, and Billie Kay was just the ultimate babyface. But now things are looking a little bit more back to normal. Oh, and the whole Jeff Hardy Elias feud went yet another week but this time it was actually very acceptable because Jeff Hardy was teaming with Carlito, who had made his return over in the Royal Rumble, if you'll remember. They teamed up against Jackson Ryker and Elias. And, of course, Jeff Hardy and Carlito defeated Elias and Ryker. And that was that. So far it's looking like Carlito will make a little bit more of either that was it for his sort of in-ring return new run, or he'll be there for a little more while and then he'll try producing. But who knows? I mean, again, pretty much literally the same story with MVP this time last year, and now he's got the Hurt Business and has been one of the major players still keeping Raw a fairly serviceable show. So, but speaking of people who are pretty much MVPs of this crazy ass show, and wow. So Alexa Bliss, fresh off of, that whole bullshit 1 minute elimination thing in the Rumble, all of a sudden she was taking on Nikki Cross again, just right out of nowhere. Which, I'd been saying for weeks now. It's just like, hey, it'd be cool sometime, if we maybe revisited that. And especially when we were going into the Rumble, I'd be like, hey, maybe a face-off between Alexa and Nikki in the Rumble, sort of little callback that I guess, maybe nobody but, the diehard Bliss fans or Cross fans were really asking for. But, I mean, outside of that, who cares? It's all about the opinions of the Bliss fans and the Cross fans here on this podcast. So we got them again, and then Alexa beat her it wasn't really clean, but she did sort of turn back into, who called it Coffee Bliss? I think it was Simon Miller who called her Coffee Bliss. First she was like Child Bliss, which is like her Firefly Funhouse form, and then he called her Coffee Bliss when she turned back into the goddess, who had won 2 tag team titles with Nikki Cross. And then she transformed back into Funhouse Bliss when Nikki would just completely derailed off of her game. And then Alexa held her in that sort of Sister Abigail hold. And then right before she hit it, she added her own twist, turning her arm to the back of Nikki's neck. And then hit whatever her new version of Sister Abigail is. And got the 1, 2, 3. So, I mean, Alexa got some of her little mojo back. It won't be fully until she gets her revenge on Rhea Ripley. Rah! But at least there's no 50-50 booking here, which, with WWE also could have easily happened. So, but that also, and I was very happy to see another match of that between the two of them again. And then I realized this was just a vessel for what came next, because as Alexa was leaving the ring in victory, Randy Orton's music hit, and Randy came out, and she was just walking past him as he was walking past her, and he was just staring ahead while she was just glaring at him as he was walking past. And I was just like, I don't think this is going to be the end. Or maybe it could have been, because she did the exact same thing to flippin' Roman Reigns like 5 months ago when they were teasing those plans for The Fiend versus Roman Reigns after Payback, which did not come into fruition because Roman versus Jay was already killing it as the main program anyway, which all in all turned out to be the right decision. But she was doing that with Randy. But that wasn't all, because we would actually revisit that. Because then Edge and Randy Orton had one more match, which might be it. Seemingly will be it, while Edge moves on to face new contenders. Or it may not be. I mean, who the hell knows at this point? Never say never, for better or for worse. That's what I've learned here. And so they proceeded on with one last match. Wasn't the greatest wrestling match ever, but, it was awesome. Anytime you get to see Edge in ring again, especially after those 9 years, and then especially after those 7 months he was gone with those torn triceps. Again, anytime we can see Edge live on our TV sets, and hopefully eventually live in an arena, with him in the arena and myself in the arena and all the other people in the arena, and then we can see Edge in person again, that would be even extra awesome. But anyway, he and Randy went at it, and then at one point Alexa appeared on one of the turnbuckles with a purple light shining down on her, the same purple light, and then this black ooze started coming from her mouth, to which Randy was just like, what the fuck? And then she just disappeared, and when Randy turned back to face Edge, Edge smacked him with a spear and got the 1, 2, 3. And people were just like, oh, why wasn't Edge thrown off? And all that. And Simon Miller had a good point. He said, Edge was in the Brood. He was literally a vampire having bloodbaths. And I agree. I mean, Edge was pretty much living out wrestling's version of one of the Blade movies. So this ain't weird to him at all. Anyways, Dusty Cup results, and then Beach Break. And then maybe, that might be it. Unless I just find a whole bunch of other things to ramble about. But first, some commercials.
We are the Earth Station 1 podcast, and we approve this message.
Hey, I'm Judy, and I've been a listener of Earth Station 1 for over 10 years. Yeah, every day while Mike edited together over 550 episodes, you know, all that geek-themed blah blah blah. I've listened so much that now I hear howdy in my sleep. You too can enjoy all the Earth Station 1 fun wherever fine podcasts are found. Okay, Mike, I did this for you. Are we going to get another dog now?
The Earth Station 1 podcast, over 10 years, for geeks by geeks.
My name is Mark McCrae, and I'm the author of The Best Saturdays of Our Lives.
I'm Dan Klink, co-host of the Best Saturdays of Our Lives podcast.
The Best Saturdays of Our Lives features programming trends from the 1966 television season all the way through the last hurrah of the early digital age of the 1990s.
On the show, if it's animated, we talk about it.
Order your signed copy today at tbsool.com.
And listen to the podcast at esonetwork.com and all podcast platforms.
Hello. Have you ever wondered how much Jerry Siegel and Joe Shuster sold Superman's rights to DC for? Or which popular football star was the Sam Wilson the Falcon's physical appearance based on? You can find all that and more at the History of Comic Books podcast, a podcast dedicated to the creators, events, history, and the companies that made the great comic book medium. Hosted and created by your friendly neighborhood JT Wheatley. Please give it a listen at iTunes, Spreaker, Stitcher, and all our podcasting platforms. Thank you, and go ahead and enjoy yourself a good comic book.
Look, we gotta talk.
Yeah, Thunder Talk.
We're going all kinds of sideways with that sweet nerd junk.
Woke nerd junk.
It's topical.
Political.
Dare I say radical.
We've got all your latest news and reviews.
Hot music.
And a whole lot of comedy.
But it ain't for kids.
Definitely mature content.
So let's talk.
Let's talk Thunder Talk.
Thunder Talk is a proud member of the ESO network.
And now we're back. And some quick things before we get to the Dusty Cup results and also Beach Break. First of all, Seth Rollins' watch. It is not dead because he came back to the Rumble. So, for what happened with the Seth Rollins watch on SmackDown, absolutely nothing except for a video package which played twice throughout the episode, promoting that Seth will be on SmackDown next week, or now this coming Friday. So stay tuned for that. Also, Bad Bunny was on Miz TV on Raw, and he expressed his desire or his dreams to become a WWE superstar, and Miz and Morrison were trying to buddy up to him and all that, and he was just like, nah. And then they were getting kind of hostile with him, so Bad Bunny brought out his friend and newest Raw superstar, Damian Priest. And then Priest fought The Miz, I believe, and then won. So that was a pretty good signature win for Priest's debut on the brand. Hopefully he actually gets a very good start and a very wonderful run here on the Red brand and the main roster. And our fears for every called-up NXT superstar don't come true for Priest. Also, where's Keith Lee? I swear to God, I'm going to have to start a Keith Lee watch here, because he's been gone for a while. So, Keith Lee watch. It might be coming soon. Oh, and also over on NXT, after all the sort of vignettes and the re-debut of Xia Li and Boa after they were being trained and put through hell by this mysterious looking force that looks like a mix between Shang Tsung and the Grudge spirit, the best way I can describe it. We found out that this entity is named Tian Sha, and they're thousands of years old, or maybe just over 1,000 years old, and she was the daughter of somebody who ruled China before the dynasties, and the father got killed, I believe, and the brother was getting corrupted. So Tian Sha went to this dragon, this talking dragon, who told her that he would train her to become a fighter or a powerful force or something, but her only price would be to give the dragon her soul. So she became a hell of a fighter, but she also lost her soul and became corrupted like her brother. So she's just, yeah. I'm still trying to wrap my head around what's going on with that story, but should be interesting. Like I said, The Grudge meets Shang Tsung. It's kind of spooky, if I do say so myself, but pretty cool. So, Dusty Cup. NXT started out with Dakota Kai and Raquel Gonzalez defeating Kacy Catanzaro and Kaden Carter to move on to the Women's Dusty Cup Finals. And then Legado del Fantasma defeated Gran Metalik and Lince Dorado of Lucha House Party. Almost lost the name there. And then MSK came out, Dez and Wentz, the former Rascals, and let Wild and Mendoza know that they're ready to fight them to get their spot into the Dusty Cup Finals at NXT TakeOver Vengeance Day. And then, also sidetrack there, Santos Escobar defeated Kurt Stallion to retain the Cruiserweight Championship. And then Escobar in an earlier promo was, saying TikTok and sort of mocking Karrion Kross and poking that bear. So while he was wrestling Kurt Stallion, he saw Scarlett off in the distance watching, and he was just like, ah. And then once he beat Kurt Stallion, Karrion Kross came out and laid out Wild and Mendoza, and he let Escobar knowing time is running out. And at first I was just like, interesting. So are they putting Karrion Kross in the Cruiserweight division and going after that championship instead of the NXT championship? Which, that would elevate the title quite a bit in my opinion. But then no, because then later there was a promo where Edge and Karrion Kross came face to face, and Kross was just like, whoever wins out of that, I'm coming for it, because that's a title that I never lost. And then Edge was just like, I feel that. And it was all sorts of, let me see Edge just fight all these young competitors. We'll make lots of great fun wrestling for my eyeballs to take in. And then Tommaso Ciampa and Timothy Thatcher defeated Adam Cole and Roderick Strong of the Undisputed Era. So they're also on their way to the Dusty Cup semifinals. Now over on AEW's Beach Break, started out with the Tag Team Battle Royale, with the winning team receiving a title shot at Revolution, and if the Young Bucks win, they get to choose their opponents for Revolution, which would have obviously have been the Good Brothers. And it was Private Party, The Acclaimed, Top Flight, Jurassic Express, Luchasaurus and Jungle Boy specifically, Dark Order, Stu Grayson and Evil Uno, Inner Circle, Santana and Ortiz, Dark Order's John Silver and Alex Reynolds, Inner Circle's Jake Hager and Sammy Guevara, and of course with them being Sammy and Hager, there was yet another video message from Sammy Hagar cheering them on, which, I always enjoy. Sammy Hagar is one of the good ones. Inner Circle's MJF and Chris Jericho, and of course the Young Bucks. And after all the mess that went down from the previous week's match between Jungle Boy and Dax Harwood, FTR were actually suspended from competition for a week, so they just forfeited their place in that battle royal and were replaced by Silver and Reynolds. And after all that craziness and some inner circle shenanigans, Chris Jericho and MJF ended up winning the battle royal and will face the Young Bucks at the Revolution pay-per-view March 7th, and Sammy Guevara was very pissed off. And then got some training footage of Jade Cargill, who of course will team up with Shaquille O'Neal and face Cody and Red Velvet on the March 3rd episode of Dynamite. Can't remember why it's not taking place at Revolution, but I think it has something to do with Shaq's schedule, I think. And then Darby Allin and Sting were in the ring. Team Taz interrupted, of course. And Taz was just like, we'll watch your match next week when you defend the TNT title against Joey Janela. And then Sting was like, well, if you're going to be here for Darby's title match, I'm going to be here to make sure it stays a one-on-one match. So, yeah, just slowly building and kind of repetitive, going towards that big old street fight at Revolution. But, you know, it's still Sting, so it's Sting. And then, thanks to some shenanigans, Britt Baker ended up defeating Thunder Rosa when Rebel/Reba removed the turnbuckle pad when the ref's vision was obscured. Then Britt sent Thunder Rosa into the exposed turnbuckle right in the face, then hit the lockjaw, and Thunder Rosa was already out of it, so the ref stopped the match and declared Britt Baker the victor. And then Hangman Adam Page and Matt Hardy defeated Chaos Project, Luther and Serpentico. And that was that. Pretty much all these people are trying to be Hangman Page's friends for whatever reasons. You know, Dark Order just is pretty much in love with him. Matt Hardy just wants him to sign a contract and take a percentage of his earnings. You know, everybody wants a piece of the anxious millennial cowboy. Then Jericho and MJF brought a cooler of bubbly to the Inner Circle's locker room to celebrate, and Sammy was just like, yeah, you know what, screw that. And then Sammy left the room, Jericho went chasing after him, and MJF kicked the cameraman out of the locker room and had Wardlow shut the door and was having a private conversation with the Inner Circle. Very interesting. And then we're here for the wedding of Penelope Ford and Kip Sabian. And Miro knows a thing or two about these weddings. And who else was... so it was Penelope and Kip. And Kip was walked out to the ring by Vicky Guerrero. And who else? Miro came out with his young boy / butler, Charles Taylor. And then Jerry Lynn walked Penelope Ford down to the ramp. And who was officiating this freaking wedding but Father James Mitchell? As in the same guy who officiated Rosemary and Johnny Bravo's wedding on Impact some time ago, who was resurrected from the dead to officiate said wedding because Havoc killed him because he was a shitty lord of the undead realm, or whatever title he gives himself as ruler of the undead realm. So this guy was here officiating this wedding here in AEW. So Kip and Penelope shared their personal vows, which had some innuendos in it, of course. And then James Mitchell asked if there was anyone who objected they should speak up now. And then Miro was just like, oh, no. I've been through that before. Let's skip that. Of course, referring to, I think, Lana and Bobby Lashley's wedding, where all their exes came out and Lashley and Lana just kicked them out until Liv Morgan came out and, you know, started that whole kayfabe lesbian love angle between her and Lana that, of course, Rusev had the privilege of being a part of. So he was just like, yeah, let's not do that. Let's just keep it rolling. So it was official. The bride and groom kissed. And then the best man, Miro, was making a toast. And he said his power and viciousness is his present to Kip. And then he pointed to a wrapped box in the corner, and he was just like, what is that? And Charles Taylor said it was a gift from him. So Miro's been here before, so he just straight up wrecked that box and was just like, there's nothing in it. Though I'm sure he was expecting Orange Cassidy to be right in there. And then Miro said it was cake time. So then he realized that he'd been shackled to the bottom rope somehow. And then Penelope Ford went face first into the wedding cake. And who else popped out from the top of the cake but Orange Cassidy? And he planted Kip Sabian. And Miro was just stuck there shackled to the cake. So, yeah. There's a wrestling wedding for you. I mean, their first mistake was, getting Father James Mitchell as the one officiating it, even though I think he's a wonderful character, and it was all sorts of fun to see him pop up there. Though even Nyla Rose tweeted, and she's been managed by Vicky Guerrero, who had walked Kip Sabian to the ring, and she was just like, yeah, I didn't show up to that because the last time that man officiated a wedding, somebody got shot. I mean, my point exactly. What else do you need? And then there was the lumberjack match that went pretty good, pretty quickly between Lance Archer and Eddie Kingston. And then FTR sent a video saying they pretty much kidnapped Marco Stunt and they had him handcuffed to a chair with his mouth taped shut. So that feud's continuing. And then main event time, Jon Moxley, Pac, and Rey Fenix versus Kenny Omega and the Good Brothers. And then ended with Rey Fenix getting hit with the Magic Killer by said Good Brothers after a wonderful 6-man tag match. And they got the 1, 2, 3. So, of course, Kenny and the Good Brothers were victorious. And then they were beating the shit out of him some more. So Lance Archer came down and he was trying to fight off Omega and the Good Brothers to get on Mox and Rey Fenix's side. And then Jon Moxley came to his feet and the Good Brothers and everybody else was cleared out the ring. So he finally was about to have Kenny Omega all to himself finally, which he'd been itching to do for pretty much 2 months now. And then all of a sudden, a masked person of wrestling ability came out of nowhere and put Jon Moxley over his shoulders and then hit the go to sleep on him, and then he unmasked himself and it was Kenta, the very same opponent that Jon Moxley is going to face very soon over in New Japan for the IWGP United States Heavyweight Championship. Whoa. And Tony Khan even alluded to this when he did one of his paid ads over in Impact Wrestling the night before, of all the things he was allowing to go on so AEW and Impact could have this thing. And he had alluded to allowing Jon Moxley to go to Japan to face Kenta for the United States Championship. And you know what? Sure enough, the feud has now spilled from Japan all the way over into Jacksonville. And he was very much wearing a Go to Sleep Club shirt, which is sending all the Bullet Club peoples in a tizzy. I mean, of course, Tama Tonga's been all about being mad at and the former Bullet Club guys in America all doing the little too sweet and all that. I mean, he never mentioned, I don't think he's mentioned AJ and Finn, but he was mostly just ragging on Kenny Omega and the Good Brothers and the Young Bucks, just really cashing in and exploiting that whole Bullet Club thing for their shows. Which, I mean, it might be a work, it might be a shoot, I don't know. But their father almost killed Simon Miller, so, there you go. And that's 1, 2, 3. Thanks for locking up with me in the Ring of Thunder. Next week is Impact Plus No Surrender and NXT TakeOver Vengeance Day. So, yeah.
This has been a broadcast of the ESO Network. Be part of the crew and help support our shows by donating to our ESO Patreon or by shopping at the TeePublic store, which can all be found at www.esonetwork.com. The ESO Network, your station for all things geek.